For 12 long years, the Hudson River held its breath. This quiet stretch of water in Poughkeepsie, New York, where sunlight dances on waves in the summer and ice cracks like whispers in the winter, kept a secret. Families laughed on its banks. Couples held hands on the walking trails. Children skipped stones, their laughter echoing over the ripples. Life moved on, but beneath the surface, the river cradled a haunting truth. Then, in July 2020, the Hudson gave up its ghost. Construction workers near the Poughkeepsie waterfront spotted something in the shallows. A skull, a femur, bones weathered by time and tide. Dental records would later confirm what a family had prayed for and dreaded since August 8, 2008. These were the remains of Rohan Stefon Brown, a son, a brother, a young man who vanished at just 21 years old. For over a decade, his loved ones had gathered at this very river. They held vigils. They left flowers. They begged the water for answers. All along, Rohan was right there, hidden in the murk, just feet from where they sat. His sister would later say, "We'd stare at the water, hoping for a sign, and he was already home." But this isn't just a story about a body found. It's about a life interrupted, a family's hope twisted into grief, and a question that still chokes the air over the Hudson. What happened to Rohan Stefon Brown? Rohan wasn't a mystery to solve. He wasn't a statistic. He was the kind of guy who'd crack a joke, so dry you'd laugh 3 seconds later. A quiet observer. But when he spoke, people listened. His childhood friends called him a gentle giant, 6 feet tall with a smile that softened the room. He loved his mom's fried chicken dinners, hated the cold, dreamed of starting a landscaping business, maybe even buying a house one day for his family. Simple dreams, human dreams. But on August 8, 2008, Rohan left his apartment in Poughkeepsie, maybe to meet a friend, maybe just to clear his head. No one knows. His keys stayed on the counter. His phone went silent. And just like that, the boy who hated goodbyes vanished without one. For weeks, his family paced the same streets he'd walked. They knocked on doors. They begged neighbors. "Did you see him? Did he seem okay?" But Rohan was already gone, slipped into thin air, leaving behind a hole no amount of time could fill. His sister still keeps his favorite hoodie in her closet. "It smells like him," she says, "like cedar and Old Spice. Like home." August 8, 2008, a humid summer night in Poughkeepsie. Rohan Stefon Brown left his apartment on Church Street, maybe to meet someone, maybe to buy a soda at the corner store. He didn't tell his family where he was going. He didn't need to. This was his neighborhood, the streets he'd walked since he was a kid. But when midnight came and Rohan didn't answer his phone, panic set in. By dawn, his mother was pacing the police station lobby. "My son's gone," she told officers. He wouldn't just leave. Detectives launched a missing persons case. They searched his apartment, no signs of struggle. No suicide note. His wallet, keys, and phone charger sat neatly on the kitchen counter. It was as if he'd stepped out for 5 minutes and evaporated. For weeks, Poughkeepsie buzzed with action. Flyers with Rohan's face plastered every bus stop, every lamppost. His photo, a candid shot of him mid-laugh, wearing his favorite Yankees cap, stared back at commuters. Shoppers, strangers, volunteers combed the woods behind the high school. Divers dragged the Hudson near the walkway over the Hudson Bridge. Cadaver dogs sniffed alleys, parking lots, abandoned warehouses. Nothing. Tips flooded the hotline. "I saw him arguing with a man in a red truck. He's living off-grid upstate. I swear it's him." Each lead collapsed. The man in the red truck? A mechanic with an alibi. The off-grid sighting? A drifter who looked nothing like Rohan. False hope cut deeper than silence. His family became detectives. They printed T-shirts with his face, held marches down Main Street, begged for airtime on local news. His sister, voice cracking on camera. "Someone knows something. Please just tell us where he is." Viewers cried, shared the segment online. Prayers piled up in Facebook comments. But Rohan's case grew cold. Months passed, then years. The flyers faded. Rain peeled Rohan's smile off lampposts. The hotline stopped ringing. Detectives rotated off the case. New faces. Old excuses. "We're doing all we can." But what happens when all you can isn't enough? Theories festered. Some whispered he drowned accidentally, maybe fell off a dock drunk. But Rohan hated the water, never learned to swim. Others pointed to foul play. A drug deal? A robbery? But Rohan didn't run with gangs. His record was clean. Then came the ugliest rumor. He wanted to disappear. His family shut that down fast. Rohan wouldn't do that. He loved us too much. Yet the truth stayed buried. His mother kept his room untouched, made his bed every Sunday. His sister dialed his old number every birthday, just to hear his voiced mail. "You've reached Rohan. Leave a message." Beep. And every August 8th, they returned to the Hudson, sat on the same bench near the river's edge, released balloons, threw roses into the water. They'd stare at the waves, begging for a sign, a ripple, a glint, a whisper. The river never answered, until it did. 12 years later, July 2020, the Hudson River was restless. Heavy rains had churned its currents, clawing at the Poughkeepsie shoreline, near the old train depot, where rusted tracks meet the water. A construction crew spotted something pale in the mud. A skull, a ribcage, bones tangled in weeds, bleached by years of sun and salt. Detectives arrived in unmarked cars. Yellow tape cut through the summer haze. News vans circled like vultures. And in a quiet house just 3 miles away, Rohan's sister scrolled through her phone, oblivious, until a detective's call shattered her world. "We found him." DNA tests confirmed it a week later. Rohan Stefon Brown, 21 years old when he vanished, 33 in the ground. His family didn't throw a vigil, didn't call the press. They drove to the river in silence, parked near the construction site, and stared at the water. All those years, his sister whispered, "We sat right here, ate sandwiches, talked about him like he was gone, but he was here, 10 feet below us." Listening, she knelt in the mud, fists clenched, and screamed until her throat tore. Closure, they call it. But what does that word mean when the truth is uglier than the mystery? Rohan hadn't run away. He hadn't started a new life. He'd been in the Hudson all along, his body trapped under rocks, his face dissolved by time. The medical examiner ruled it a drowning, but couldn't say how he entered the water. No broken bones, no signs of attack, just gaps. His mother refused to believe it was an accident. Rohan hated the river. He wouldn't go near it after dark. Someone put him there, but police had no suspects, no witnesses, no evidence beyond bones. The family buried him in September. A small funeral, no casket, just an urn of ashes. His sister wore his Yankees cap. His mother folded his favorite hoodie into the grave, fingers trembling. "You're home now," she said. But home was a jar of dust. Home was a headstone with dates that didn't make sense. 1987 to 2008. Questions festered like rot. Why did it take 12 years for the river to give him back? Why did the searches in 2008 miss him? Was he dumped there that August night? Or did the river steal him later? Detectives reopened the case. Briefly, they re-interviewed old friends, scanned missing persons databases, even dove the riverbed again. But the Hudson keeps its secrets. The case went cold once more. Today, Rohan's sister visits the waterfront every Sunday. She brings coffee, sits on the same bench. Sometimes she talks to the water. "I don't know if you're at peace," she says. "But I'm not. Not until I know who did this to you." The river doesn't answer. It never does. 12 years of questions. 12 years of dead ends. Rohan Stefon Brown's case remains open. No arrests. No suspects. No justice. Just a manila folder in a cold case cabinet. Gathering dust. Police say the investigation is active. But active for who? For the mother who sleeps with her son's hoodie pressed to her chest? For the sister who memorized the detective's empty promises? Let's be clear. Someone knows something. A neighbor who heard shouts that August night. A friend who noticed Rohan acting strange. A stranger who saw something they couldn't explain. Silence isn't neutral. Silence drowns the truth. Was it an accident? The police say drowning. But Rohan's family scoffs. How? They ask. He avoided the river. He didn't drink. He wasn't suicidal. Where's the proof? A body doesn't tell the whole story. Bones can't speak. Or was it something darker? A fight gone wrong. A secret someone took to the grave. A crime buried under lies. Protected by time. If the river hid Rohan for 12 years, what else is it hiding? The family doesn't want pity. They want answers. His sister posts on Facebook every August 8th. "We're still here. We're still waiting." Comments flood in. "Praying for you. Stay strong." But prayers don't solve crimes. The hardest truth? This isn't just Rohan's story. It's the story of every missing person whose face fades from milk cartons. Every family who hears we're doing all we can as years bleed into decades. Every community that forgets. But Rohan's family refuses to let Poughkeepsie forget. They stalk city council meetings. They print new flyers with his old photo. They beg cold case units. Test the DNA again. Re-interview the witnesses. Try, but trying costs money. Money that's never there for boys like Rohan. So here's what we know on August 8th, 2008. A healthy 21-year-old vanished. On July 2020, his bones surfaced a mile from his home. Between those dates, a void someone could fill. Maybe you're watching this and think, it's not my business. But what if it was your brother, your son, your friend? What if your life unraveled while the world moved on? Rohan's sister still visits the river every week. She sits on that bench, stares at the water, and whispers, "You didn't drown yourself." "I know it. Help me prove it." The Hudson says nothing. But you can speak. If you know anything about Rohan's last night alive, if you've heard rumors, overheard confessions, lied out of fear, it's not too late to come forward. This isn't just about solving a case. It's about a boy who loved his mom's fried chicken, a sister who still texts his old number, a truth that could set a family free. Until then, Rohan's story screams from the silence. How many more secrets is the Hudson keeping? And how many of us will pretend not to hear them? The Hudson River still carves its path through Poughkeepsie. Its currents tug at the same docks where Rohan's father once taught him to skip stones. Its waves still slap the hulls of barges carrying cargo to the sea. On the surface, it's unchanged, a postcard of quiet beauty. But dive deeper, and you'll find ghosts tangled in its weeds. For 12 years, this river held Rohan hostage. It cradled his bones in silt and shadow while his family wept on its banks. They'd toss flowers into the water, unaware their tears fell inches from his grave. Now, when they visit, they don't bring roses. They bring rage. You took him, his sister says to the river, but you didn't take the truth. Not yet. The Hudson doesn't care. It never did. It swallows secrets the way it swallows rain greedily, effortlessly. But Rohan's story isn't its secret to keep anymore. It's ours. Every time his name is spoken, the water loses a little power. Every time his face is shared, the shadows shrink. Every time someone dares to ask, what happened that night? The truth claws closer to the surface. So let the river flow. Let it hide what it hides. Rohan's family doesn't need its confession anymore. They need yours. If you've ever driven past Poughkeepsie's waterfront and felt a chill, if you've ever overheard a boast in a bar, a slip of the tongue, a guilty stare, if you've ever thought, maybe I should say something, say it now. The Hudson will keep flowing long after we're gone, but Rohan's story doesn't have to drown with it. Speak his name, share this video, or let the river's silence become your own.